Alright, let's go over real quick a couple things. First, if a student asks for you to reopen a late quiz, let's walk through how to do that. First of all, Dr. Vickers only likes to do it once per student. With that said, if there are two quizzes that week, I typically just reopen both of them. But the way we go ahead and do that is that we first turn editing on, and then we go down to the quiz, and I have a student here. See, he's already emailed me back, so let me get in there. Thank you. Okay. So, which ones does he want? He wants me to reopen them from last week. Okay. So I go down to last week's quizzes, and that is, let's see here, this one right here, right? Only one. 29th. Okay. So, oh no, I see there's three of them. Okay. So I go over here and I edit settings. I come down here to add a user override. Add a user override. And the student's name is Timothy. So I'll type in here Timothy. Click that. Now if Moodle's filling in your password, it's because you have autofill in your Moodle login. You want to delete that because they're not going to know your password. Then you want to enable a date. I told the student that he can take it up into tonight at midnight, so Eastern Standard Time, so that's correct. Time limit, enable that, and then delete that, which is my username. Undo that now. Now here is pretty crucial. If they've attempted it already and they did a silly mistake, or say they opened it and accidentally closed it or something like that, and they have a 0 on it, you're going to have to do 2. But for a student who just didn't take it, 1 attempt is fine. So I'm going to save that. And that's how you do it. Now, for my purposes, I'm going to do that again for the other 2 quizzes. So if you need more practice, you can watch me. If you think you got it, then just fast forward the little video clip. So just give me 1 second. Okay. And one more. User overrides. Add a user override. Timothy's getting the best bang for his buck, I guess. 3 quizzes are being reopened for him. Okay. Good. 1 attempt's fine for him because he forgot to take it. Okay. Now let's go over the book review. The book review rubric, you want to take a look at that, pretty much discusses 4 aspects of the book review. Let's go down to the steps to a great book review. Don't worry, Ani, I passed it. There we go. So here are my instructions. Okay. So we have an introduction, summary, critique, conclusion. So those are the ways we're going to grade this. 40 points for critique, 40 points for summary, 10 for introduction, 10 for conclusion. 2 components we're looking for in the introduction is if they state the author's thesis and their own thesis. The way I just describe my own thesis is that they have to say Alexander was persuasive in arguing for his thesis because he used scripture well. He anticipated counter arguments, and he expounded texts really well, or something like that. So that's obviously their thesis. Alexander's thesis um, uh, seems to me to be that the meta-narrative of Scripture helps answer life's biggest questions. With that said, I don't think Alexander's that thesis becomes pretty implicit throughout the book. So if they say something like his thesis is to give an overview of Scripture or something, I think that's sufficient too. Anyway, they have to have both those components to get a 10. If they articulate both those things but have some grammatical errors, it's a 8. And likewise, you can go down the list. Now, for summary, the way I basically grade it is they need to be focused on the summary, so they need to tailor it to the author's thesis. So if they just give a play-by-play, they're just giving you every little detail. That's not focused. So that's typically like a C or a B. So that's automatically out of 40 points, that would be 8 points taken off if it wasn't really focused at all. Yeah, also, it's not on here, but another big aspect is it has to be an extensive summary. So they kind of need to cover the whole book. So if you could just look at their in-page citations, and if they have only cited the first 70 pages, that's a problem. And I automatically take off 4 points if it's not extensive enough. So if it's a focused summary and it covers the whole book, it's a 40-pointer. I don't go too in depth into looking at the summary, but just glancing at it, if it appears that way, it's a 40-pointer. If it's not quite focused or quite not extensive, it's 4 points off. It's a B. And likewise, if lower down the grade scale, it becomes a C, D, an F. And of course, that's a bit subjective, up to you. So, but I trust your judgments. Critique, they need to do 2 things. They need to assess the author's claim. So they have to say something like, Alexander was persuasive in arguing for his thesis. That's an assessment, obviously. And then they have to offer proof, so they need to prove that. So if they do that, it's 40 points. If you can look at each column and see the other points, and the same thing for the conclusion. So with that said, let me show you how I grade a book review, so you guys can have a basic understanding. Obviously, you've all graded book reviews, and you're all highly competent to grade book reviews, but just so we're all on the same page here. Let's see, I'll grade assignments. Now let's see here. I guess I will do, since I have group 1 and 2, and the groups are divided alphabetically, I'll go down here to surnames A, and I'll grade all of the A's, right? So a way I can check that is I can go back here to my main page, and I can look in here, and let's see here, users and groups. Once I'm in here, I can look at group 1 and see I have B's, and then I have this Kelsey White. I don't know how I got her, but and then I have B's. So I have Francis Williams. I don't know how I got him either, but okay. So I have all the way down to Davis. I have A through Davis plus Williams and White, which really should be your 2 people, Matt, but I guess I'll keep them. So I have A through Davis and Kelsey White and Francis Williams. So okay. So I'll come back over here to assignments. Come over here to grade my book reviews. View grade. I have A's. Okay, so he submitted it 4 hours and 18 minutes late. That's not a problem. It's not a big deal. So you click here, we go to grade. I download his summary, or his book review. Now this is the way I found most helpful, is that I just use my review button to make comments. So that's what I'll do. So introduction, pretty much I'm just answering. Okay, so I'm just glancing through it. I'll probably take 5 minutes to grade this thing, and you should take about the same time. So let's get this started. Here, within the assertion. Okay, so broadly, he proposed to answer two things. Good. This is indeed the thesis. His method, this is good. Principle and the author's statements, and good. So this pretty much is what the guy is saying is the thesis. So I'll say something like, great job identifying the thesis. And sorry about that, that's my son. So, and then what I'll do is I use FlyCut. So if you guys don't have FlyCut, you really should download FlyCut because it allows you to copy and paste up to 40 items, and then you just press Shift Command V and hold all that down, and I can go down the list and see all the things that I've cited, and then I just let off, and it pastes that in there. So I'm going to reverse that. So that's really helpful in grading the book reviews. So okay, so he's identified his the author's thesis. Let's look for his thesis. So here's his thesis. So he does succeed. So great job stating your thesis. So good, this is a perfect 10 out of 10 introduction, so I'll just do, yeah, so that's 10 out of 10. So right here, I'll do something like this. Intro, introduction, summary, critique, conclusion. He got a 10 out of 10. Good job. Okay, now down to summary. Beyond a short introductory chapter, Okay, Genesis is presented as a potential building site. So this idea of presence. Okay. So this is quite extensive. He's covering the entire thing. So I'm not seeing how he's, intentionally weaving this back to the author's thesis about how this answers life's biggest questions. So let me go through it in a little more detail. Okay, yeah, so I mean, this is okay. It's not as explicit as I would like. I would say something like, tie the summary more explicitly to the thesis. Which is, what is the purpose of human life? To be in the presence of God or something like that. So it'd be nice for him to be a little bit more explicit here. But that's pretty good. So I'm just going to take off 4 points for that. And because he doesn't seem to tie it back in any other detail. Yeah, so he could have done better at tying this back to the thesis. So what I'm looking for thesis is typically topic sentences. Chapter 6, or let's see, I would say something like Chapter 3, Thrown from the Throne, Reestablishing the Sovereignty of God. I like for him to say something like, in this chapter, Alexander argues for his thesis by showing that Christ reestablishes the sovereignty of God and that God can once again be with man, or something like that. It's a little more explicit, so that's fine. So -4 for that. And then now we get to the critique, so I'm looking for assessment and proof. So let's see, structurally makes use of several helpful elements. Okay, so that's good assessment. Content is well organized, helpful with readers, just along with... That's good, yeah. Regarding content, it is worth noting that the author offers a few preemptive caveats, okay. He recognizes that, okay, this is good too. It's seeking to connect the dots of God's presence from Eden to the tabernacle, the temple, and ultimately the church. Alexander succeeds. Again, good critique. And again, I'll just copy that. in support of answering, let's see. As the longest chapter of the book, this section provides the best case. The motif of the temple is supported best and most directly by the author's comparison. He mentions the New Jerusalem. So this is good. It's kind of summary-like, and we don't want summary. So what I'm going to say to him is that explain in more detail why his explanation of this term is helpful. And then I'm going to take off 2 points for that because it's becoming more like summary here. I don't want him to just say he's helpful and just tell me what he's done. I want him to tell me why he's helpful. So he could have been in more detail there, but he's doing well. Okay, and I'm not even going through everything at this point because he's offered a pretty good critique. And notice too, his critique is over 2 pages, so it's extensive enough. Typically, if it's less than a page and a half, I'm going to start taking off a few points. If it's a page, take off 5 points. If it's less than a page, I mean, we're getting very serious. If nobody offers any critique, it's obviously negative 40. So let's get down here to restore his rule. So helpful, this idea is juxtaposition. Oh my goodness. Juxtaposition of the kings of Salem and Sodom. Okay, that's fine. That's a good assessment. Okay, so maybe a little summary-like, but this is overall pretty good. And then conclusion. So here's the identifying of the thesis. So I'm going to do that. So now I'm just looking for him saying Alexander succeeded. Okay, yeah, so this is good here. One of the better summaries of this view. That's fine. Okay, good. So I'm going to go back up to the top here. And let's see, summary was 36 out of 40. Critique was 38 out of 40. And conclusion is 10 out of 40. Good. So this student received a 94. So I'll just do one more comment. 94 out of 100. Good. And then I'm going to save this. File, save. I'm going to save it as BR1, my first one. Replace. '94. See comments in the paper. I'm going to come down here. BR1. This is Brandon Abbott. Okay, we'll put that there. Save and show next. All right, well, I hope that was helpful, and if you guys have any questions,